SoSoDay is a SaaS platform that helps you engage, motivate, and reward employees, channel partners, and consumers. You can automate complex HR and trade incentive programs. SoSoDay, engagement, rewards, and recognition solution for enterprises.
Congratulations on the journey. So, Manoj sir, the very first question which uh, me and a lot of young minds there want to know what has motivated you this far and is motivating again to go ahead.
We started this journey in 2012. We started with 4 founders, and um, I was fortunate to work with two very entrepreneurial companies in my career. One was Yahoo, which has which has kind of generated a lot of entrepreneurs across the world, very successful internet and SaaS entrepreneurs come out of Yahoo. And then my second company, Flipkart, which is again an amazing story in India. And then a lot of entrepreneurs have taken inspiration from Flipkart. Similarly, my co-founder, some of them have been entrepreneurs themselves in the past, and then they come with great background. So that has really helped us kind of push each other, that if somebody is not so motivated, then the other person comes and motivates. So that push and pull has been helping us a lot. In terms of how we started this journey, way back in 2012, when I was working with Flipkart, one of the small piece which I was handling as part of my role was their entire gifting vertical. So though Flipkart was not exactly a gifting company, but some percentage of the purchase was happening because of gifting. And that is where I saw that there is a large opportunity in this entire gifting vertical, which has not been addressed properly, both in India and outside India. And
Right.
my other co-founder, Sumit, he was working with Metro Cash and Carry at that time, and he was handling private labels. And he also observed a similar trend that a lot of purchase in the Metro Cash and Carry private labels was happening because of the gifting side.
Right.
And that is how two of us kind of started it, and then Abhishek and Kushal joined in the journey after 1 or 2 months, and then that is how we have been progressing.
B2C to B2B. So the transition to B2B is always a challenging thing, because when you enter into an institutional kind of setup, or the corporate kind of setup, things are different when it as compared to a B2C environment. Uh, there in B2B, things are really challenging. You have to find opportunities in terms of not just a seasonal gifting, but the entire 364 into 24 into 7 kind of gifting thought process. So how was your journey and the challenges when you moved from B2B, B2C to a B2B environment in terms of gifting?
Yeah, so we did not spend a lot of time in B2C. We spent only 3 4 months in B2C, and then I had a good amount of background in B2C with my experience in Flipkart and also with Yahoo, which are both very large consumer companies.
Right.
So I knew that to really scale a B2C, it requires massive amount of ramp up in a very short time. Uh, and the second thing is it requires a very large reach, and uh, the reach is generally built with money. So in a B2C environment, people have been kind of trained on discounts, which you can say good or bad, because of the massive funding which B2C has got in the last 10 years. people have been so very changed by their behaviors by inducing a lot of discounts in the market, and we did not really want to play that game because as the DNA of all four of us and the kind of team we had built was not around building a company which has fundamentally being built on discounts. We wanted to build something which was more profitable, which was more sustainable, and that is the reason we changed very quickly to B2B. Uh, Now in B2B, there are certain things which a B2B business demands, a B2B consumer demands. One thing is, I mean, to start the B2B business, one is you don't need too much of capital because you can slowly cater to one customer at a time rather than going for millions of customers. Second is you can control your expenses because you don't have to spend a lot in B2B marketing as if you are doing it smartly. Uh, so it doesn't require too much of capital. What sells in B2B is your product and service. So do you have a fantastic product? And then is the product topped up with a very good, trustworthy customer service? So are you providing good confidence to the customer that you are great in terms of your product, and you are there for them at any point of time when it requires any kind of assistance to their customers. And those were the two things we focused a lot to make sure that whichever customers which we touch upon become our lifetime customers. Uh, so we focused a lot on our surveys, on our product, and that really helped us to kind of navigate this journey in B2B.
Okay, say about Zozo Day in numbers. Like you said that you are doing around 50 million USD a year. So in terms of numbers, if you were to explain Zozo Day, say how many employees are here currently, and how many transactions are you hitting every day or every month?
So we are around 180. Yeah. So to give a very high level view on the numbers, we are around 180 employees. Most of our employees are based out of Bangalore, but we have an office uh, in California. We have one office in Dublin. We have an operation in Singapore and Dubai, and we have our office in Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore.
Okay.
In terms of number of customers, around 1,000 customers. In terms of number of users on the platform, around 2 million users, which is 20 lakhs.
Yeah.
Uh, in terms of daily transactions, so we have a SaaS business as well as a commerce business. So uh, we have more than 1 lakh users on our SaaS platform, and more than I would say 2 lakh transactions every month on our commerce platform.
That's great. Thank you. Like when you started back in 2012, there were multiple opportunities in multiple domain. But why did you choose this particular domain?
Yeah, so see, we initially picked up the domain which was purely into gifting. The reason was I had maybe 5 to 10% of my work in my previous company related with that, and I could see that that in terms of the value, in terms of the $1 million, it was a large opportunity. Similarly, my other co-founder also had some idea that okay, this gifting thing is a decent opportunity. But when we started the execution, we realized that the consumer gifting space is not really large the way we were really thinking. Because especially in India, because the consumer gifting in India is largely cash driven. I mean, you are still you still are good in giving cash.
Lifafa.
Lifafas or yeah. And you can't really change cultures because that is very deeply ingrained into our culture, and a business which tries to change the culture is a tough business.
Correct.
So that is something we realized. Second is we also found that uh, gifting to a large extent is easily handled by other players like the Flipkart, the Amazon,
Hmm.
the big bazaars and shopper stops, etc.
Hmm.
And the guys like Tanishq and Titan.
Hmm.
So we realize that, I mean, we are not really building something which is very differentiated, which really solves any deep consumer problem. So and we wanted to solve something which was a real pain point for the consumer, which was very tech driven rather than something which was very ops.
Hmm.
And that is why we moved from gifting to a slightly more larger vertical, which was around rewards and benefits and incentives and loyalty.
Right.
uh, and that that was something which we did for the first 4 to 5 years.
Right.
Maybe 2012 to 2017 is what we did, this entire rewards, incentives, loyalty, and benefits.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, and yeah.
So my next question is that how much capital did you invest it at the time of inception?
Yeah, so from the founding side, we invested almost like 50 lakhs.
Okay.
Each one of us, we contributed savings. We invested 50 lakhs. And uh, the good part from our side is that two of us come from business families. We have seen how businesses are built.
Right.
We know we know the we know the fundamentals which we have seen in our families, that okay, for every penny spent you have to earn double to kind of make a sustainable business.
And
So yeah.
and how long did it take to turn cash positive or break even?
So this is a good question. I mean, uh,
This is
so
the
it depends
fundamental,
upon the founder.
this is the fundamental question for each and every startup or an entrepreneur. He must ask when at the time of the inception. So you can give us a great insight about it.
Yeah, so see, this word funding has been glorified to unimaginable levels in the last 2 decades, or
Hmm.
maybe 2.5 decades. Uh, when we talk about funding, we immediately start thinking, okay, VC funding and PE funding. So that is the immediate notion we have, that okay, somebody like the Accels or the Sequoias or the SaaS,
Hmm.
etc., will fund.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then there are a lot of other ways of doing funding, and those are the ways which we tried. That one, can your consumer fund you? So
Okay.
that is the simplest thing. That okay, you have something in your business which keeps you funded through the
Hmm.
consumer.
Hmm.
And second is can can you do things which are more innovative, which are more through the typical hustling, etc., which can save what you spend. So for example, if you are planning to spend, let's say, $100 in marketing, can
Hmm.
you do the same thing in $10?
Hmm.
And then if you really innovate, I mean, if you really push yourself uh, in terms of innovation, you can actually do that. Not even in $10, you can do it in $5. So every saving is actually a funding.
Correct.
So let's say if you are planning to spend $100, you are able to do it in $10. You
Hmm.
have funded yourself with $90.
Right.
And the second funding was, how can you really drive your sales engine right from day one. So we generally have a thought process that okay, my sales will start after 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, and I am just building the product, etc., etc. Uh, which may not be a great idea for every kind of startup. I mean, it can be a great idea when you are a research-based company. Let's say that if you are building a vaccine for COVID. Now, there is a gestation period because you need that R&D for getting that vaccine out.
Hmm.
Now, that might take 6 months, 12 months. If it is a R&D project, I mean, it, it 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 is fine that your sales machine starts after a couple of months or quarters or years. But if it is not an R&D machine, you should start thinking about your sales before you build your product. And that has been our DNA. That how do you really think about sales before you even start your business?
Hmm.
And that has really helped us. That okay, you have revenue right from day one.
Correct. So how many days it required you to got your first 3 customers?
So the first 3 customers, I think around 3 months.
That's great.
Uh, yeah. So we started part time in somewhere around February of 2012.
Right.
We started full time in July. So somewhere around 15th of July is when we started full time.
Right.
Uh, we had our revenues within July itself,
Right.
some very small things, but by October 2012, we had some 3 to 4 customers, and we were very good in terms of meeting our expenses. So whatever we were spending, we were able to generate that revenue.
Right.
Manoj, I've got one question. Good evening. One question is like, suppose somebody is a new guy who's entering in the startup era, and what are the advices? Does he start? Getting the manpower? Okay, let's see, building up his team, building up. What are things do's and what age he should enter into this field? Because a lot of people are entering it. What kind of things, requisite quality he should have? Some experience completely from college. What is it based on your experience? What is your message to the youngsters or young India?
Yeah, so see, there is the internet is flooded with a lot of advice. I mean, great guys have given a lot of advice right in India as well as in the Valley. Now, one thing I'm a strong believer that you can't just take an advice in 15 minutes and then kind of start implementing it. Everything has a gestation period, especially so an entrepreneurship or building a company is like living your life. So when we live our life, I mean, every day is a day of learning. We learn something every day, and that cannot be kind of written down in a 15 minutes session. Now, uh, what newbies or people who are starting it for the first time should definitely do is that apply some basics of their life. I mean, uh, entrepreneurship is nothing but an extended life of your professional life or your educational life. So try to implement the basics which you have learned in your education or in your professional life. So things like, uh, I mean, there is no shortcut to hard work. So we all know that, and and it's a fact. I mean, there is no shortcut to hard work in whatever you do. I mean, uh, and you have to do that hard work. So if you are somebody who is by the DNA not a hard worker, I think entrepreneurship is not the right journey for you, because entrepreneurship will require hard work. There is no magic for that to replace that. Second is entrepreneurship by default requires humility. You have to keep your ego in your somewhere in the box,
Hmm.
and be as humble and as respectful as possible, because you will get uh, 90% no's and 10% yes in your life, whether it is during your hiring, whether it is when you are going for sales, whether you are going for investments, etc., etc. So you can't be kind of giving up that okay, the same employer who I was working with and the guy who was reporting to me is now saying a no to my product. These things will happen. So don't be egoistic. Be very humble, very respectful. Now, and you are the best judge of your persona. So if by default, if you are not somebody who has been humble or respectful in your life, you can't change that attitude in 1 minute. Even if I am giving that advice, or if let's say Mark Anderson is giving that advice, I mean, that advice won't change you as a person. So you have to identify yourself as a persona, that what kind of a person are you, and uh, are you having those right DNA and the qualities and the principles which are required in a typical entrepreneurship. I'm not saying that one size fits all, but I have seen that 90% of the entrepreneurs have a similar kind of a persona. And it is perfectly fine that you say that I am not of that persona. And then you can say that, okay, maybe entrepreneurship may not be the right cup of tea for you. Maybe you can do something else. uh, yeah.
Yeah. Manoj, like you have 4 co-founders, and many startups are now starting with co-founder as a culture. So at times there are differences of opinion among the co-founders. So how do you balance that consensus building in most of your decisions in the journey?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So number one is, in today's world, which is very stressful and very competitive, I always recommend that people don't start as a single founder, especially when you are doing a scalable company. I mean, if you are doing, uh, see, we guys are not only entrepreneurs. So people who have, see, 100 employees or 200 employees are not entrepreneurs alone. Somebody who is running a shop in Chandni Chowk, or somebody who is selling pani puri is also an entrepreneur.
Correct.
Somebody who is an artist is also an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
So, so there are different kind of businesses. So if you are doing some kind of entrepreneurship which is around your hobbies, or which are very small scale businesses, or very SMB kind of businesses, I think there you can be alone. I mean, you can easily be a great artist by yourself. You can be a great startup in food by yourself. But when it comes to a slightly more scalable company, generally a single founder becomes limited because of the kind of competition you face and the kind of stress which the modern life kind of poses. So we were very sure. For example, I was very sure that I would never start alone, because I am definitely building a scalable company, and hence I need more than one founder. And that is when I and Sumit we met in the beginning, and we started it. And then we also found that luckily we both were very complementary in our skills, but there was one more skill set which was definitely missing in our side, which was a very deeper expertise into technology, because we were building a technology company. I have a decent technology background, but I was not in touch with my coding experience for a couple of years, and hence we required somebody who was a great tech guy. And that is when we came across Abhishek within the first 2 months, and Abhishek joined the journey with us. He comes with a great tech experience. Now, three of us were a good combination in terms of uh, most of the ingredients which were required in starting a startup. And then uh, maybe 2-3 months later, we came across Kushal. Kushal was actually doing an internship with me when I was with Flipkart, and he has been in touch with me in different ways. He was always taking advice from me about his career, etc. And that is how Kushal came along with us, that okay, why don't I also join you, because I really want to start my journey as an entrepreneur rather than as an employee. And we knew Kushal, and the chemistry was matching, and that is when four of us kind of started. Now, in terms of how do we handle the differences, etc. So see, one is each one of us have very complementary skills, and that really helps. So
Right partners. I mean, yeah, I mean, the right partners, choosing right partners. Number one, how important it is, and and uh, and how often you do that.
Yeah. So good question, Bhagesh. I mean, we need partners not only in businesses but in our lives as well. So equivalent to choosing a life partner because both intersect each other. So if you have chosen a business wrong business partner, it will also spoil your life relations because the stress of a business partner always goes back to your home and vice versa. So uh, the fundamentals remain the same. So just apply the same fundamentals when you choose your life partner or any other partner, no matter what. It can be your friends. How do you choose your friends? How do you choose to go along with one person versus other person? So few things which we generally evaluate or I generally evaluate when it goes to finding the right guy. Uh, One is the right attitude and the right principles. That does that person have the right attitude and principles, and do they match with you? So let's say that if you are a person who is somebody who has certain value system. So for example, your value system is like you respect elders, and if you are trying to find a partner who doesn't come with that value system because he has not lived into that environment of having elders, etc., then you are in a wrong partnership. Similarly, if you are somebody who lives a normal life, who doesn't spend a lot in unnecessary things or non-essentials, etc., etc., and who wants to do a profitable business, and your partner is somebody who wants to do a business which, no matter what, whether he doesn't care about whether it is profitable or not, the only thing he cares is that it should be a unicorn, etc., then again there is a mismatch. So when we came across so when I came across Sumit, and Sumit came across me, and then we came across Abhishek or Kushal, etc., our questions were never around, okay, do you know PHP and I know PHP? No, the questions were not functional. The questions were more around value systems. That okay, uh, what is your family about? What do they do? uh, what what are your hobbies? See, one is you have to choose your partner according to the values and principles. uh, are your values and principles matching with your founders or partners value system? Second, are your goals and objectives matching? So your purpose of doing a startup has to match with his or her purpose of doing a startup, because different people have different purposes when they do a startup. Some people want to do a startup to make billions of dollars. Some people want to make a startup to actually bring a change in human lives, maybe a social entrepreneurship. Some people start because they they had no idea why they want to start. They just started. Some people start because they want to prove it to somebody else. So some people start just to get PR mileage. They want to make a name out there. They want to be in the media and the news and so on. So that has to match, because if that is a mismatch, then you will go in the north direction, the other person will go in the south direction, and you will have conflicts. So those are certain things. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other things. You can match the Rahu Ketu, etc., etc., etc. So that aptitude is something which you can easily evaluate through somebody's education and professional life. So let's say if your partner is coming from IIT, and then he has worked for 2 years in Google and another 2 years in Amazon, you already know that that guy is a great aptitude guy. I mean, the marks are already 10 out of 10, and that is very easy to find, because that is written on his resume, on his LinkedIn, etc., etc. but how do you really know the deeper behaviors of that person, that what kind of person is he? uh, that is something which takes a little more time, which you really need to speak to his friends. You have to take some reference checks. You should speak to the family also. In our case, we met the families, so we met as families, so that we know that we are just like the way when you find your life partner in India, you don't really go ahead unless you do the family meetings, because finding a partner in business is also like meeting of two families. The families also should meet and know each other, and that is how we went about it. We tried doing B2C, which is business to consumer business, in the beginning, and then we tried it again somewhere around 2016, and both the time we failed miserably. And then we tried to introspect that why we failed, and we found that we failed because number one, B2C businesses require a slightly more different mindset of the entrepreneurs, where entrepreneurs are ready to do a non-profitable business where you are spending more than what you are earning, which was not our DNA, and we could not change that DNA. And the second was, typical B2C businesses are very discount-led businesses most of the times. I'm not saying that all of them, but most of the times. And because of those discounts, you require heavy funds to kind of sustain those discounts, which again did not really match our DNA, because we were guys who wanted to build something profitable. So that was one mistake, that we were doing something which was against our DNA, and we should not have done that. The second mistake I would say is, we try to do the business in experiences and activities, which again, we found that it is not a B2B business. It is fundamentally a consumer business, and if we had to do it, we should have done only consumer business and not a B2B business. So we were trying to do experiences through B2B, which was again a wrong intersection. They were not matching. And I think the third thing was, uh, in terms of mistakes in hiring. I mean, we have also done mistakes in hiring, just like any other company. uh, should we hire this person, this particular function versus that particular function? So I think we could have prioritized our hiring better, maybe by hiring uh, particular functions before we could hire some other functions. So those are a couple of learnings which we have during our journey. There are a lot of others, but I'm highlighting some of them.
Yes. As Zozo Day. So like we have already seen the Zozo Day's journey in last 8 years. So where do you see in next 5 to 10 years? And are you serving
I
currently
think,
foreign customers also, or you are purely serving Indian customers?
yeah. So to answer the foreign question, so we have been serving foreign customers right since 2016. Today, almost 30 to 35% of our revenue comes from international customers. We have
great.
offices outside India,
Okay.
and we have more than 100 customers outside India.
Oh, wow. That's great.
A lot of our customers in India are multinationals. So if they buy us from India, then they start buying for outside India as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Of 10 years, 10 years is a slightly big horizon. So I really don't have great answers for that.
5 years.
But in terms of 5 years, see, uh, one of the great things which we have learned from our mentors is that uh, it is easy to build companies, but it is tough to build institutions.
Hmm.
So we are trying to build an institution. Uh, we get more inspiration from companies like Infosys and Wipro and Google and Tata's and and Reliance. Those are our larger aspirations because those are businesses which are standing the times of testimony. I mean, they are there for 30 years, 40 years, 100 years.
True.
So that is something which we want to build. Something which is an institution which is not like a exit and sale kind of a story where you build something, you are chasing some exits, you sell it, then you become a serial entrepreneur, etc., etc. We don't want to get into that race. If we become serial entrepreneurs, we will become within our business. So we started with one product line, and today we have 3 products. Maybe in future we might add the 4th product in the similar area. We might add a 5th product. So that is where we see that how can we build an institution which is self-sustainable, which can create employment, which can innovate as per time, which can learn and unlearn and relearn, which is part of our DNA, that how do we quickly adapt to situations and move forward. So those are the things which we see, and today we are doing a turnover of around $50 million. I think in the next 5 years we see a turnover of somewhere around $500 to $1,000 million.
Oh, that's
That
great.
is where we see ourselves.
That's great.
Thank you very much, Manoj, for your time. I think is very. I listened intently. I think it was visionary. Like it was coming from your inside. That is very encouraging. Sometimes
and
you are not.
and
Yeah.
all very practical aspect of the business.